Good morning and good afternoon depending on where you guys are in the country. Appreciate you joining this webinar today. My name is Brad Penfold. I'm Vice President of National Accounts for BMI Imaging Systems, located in Sunnyvale, California, right in the heart of Silicon Valley. Again, I appreciate you joining us today. We're going to take about 20 to 30 minutes of your time for a discussion of microfilm and case file scanning for courts, focused primarily on files that have been archived and are being retrieved today using reader printers from either microfilm or microfiche. I do want to mention that you're all muted at this point, and we are going to be accepting questions. If you have questions in the right panel of the GoToMeeting, go ahead and submit those, and we'll get to those and address them at the end. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. Again, appreciate you taking the time today to join us. First, let's discuss a little bit about the agenda for today. Real quickly, we're going to discuss BMI Imaging Systems, a little bit about our history and where we've been and where we're going. We're going to talk about microform conversion options. And when I say microform, I'm talking about roll microfilm. I'm talking about microfiche. It could be aperture cards or comfiche. It's basically all various types of microfilm media. Primarily, though, we're talking about roll film and microfiche. That's generally what we see in the courts around the country. And there are really two primary options for converting your film and fiche. There's a traditional conversion, which we'll discuss. And then we're also going to show you today an alternative to traditional, which is the BMI digital reel solution. We'll also touch on inherent challenges of converting microfilm. And there are some that you need to be aware of, and we need to discuss how to deal with those challenges. We're going to talk about security that you'll be interested in any vendor that you work with. Security is very important to BMI Imaging System. We have done quite a few court conversions. We did a very large federal government conversion several years ago that required a NIST certification that we'll talk about a little bit. After that, we'll go into a quick digital reel demonstration. We'll follow that up with some Q&A and then discuss some next steps. I'm assuming you're on the webinar today because you have microfilm or microfiche, you're using it on a regular basis, and you're at least exploring the possibility of converting it to digital. So a little bit about BMI Imaging Systems. Over 60 years in business. We started in 1958. It's a family business. The current president's father started this company in 1958. So obviously, back in those days, there was no digital. We were creating a ton of microfilm. For 30 years plus, we created a lot of microfilm. And for the last 25 years plus, we've been helping those same clients convert away from film. And the reason they want to convert away from film is they want to retire the film and they want to retire the reader printers. And most of you, if you're still using film, are well aware of the challenges of dealing with reader printers these days. Again, we do offer both traditional and digital reel conversion options. We have a secure facility, which is going to be very important for any project that you might have. We do offer secure cloud hosting and also cjis hosting options. And just for measure, we have over 2,000 customers, again, being in business for 60 years. Anybody, what we refer to as known users of microfilm, we've probably done some work for them over the last 60 years. I myself, a little bit of history, I have 30 plus years in the industry, and so my early training was in the creation of microfilm, and obviously in the last 25 years we've been digitizing in the digital age. So let's talk again about those options that you have. When we say traditional, what we're really referring to is scanning the film or fiche, creating individual images in either bitonal mode or grayscale mode, and then those images need to be grouped and potentially indexed to go into maybe your current content management system, or maybe you're going to put all these images out on a shared drive by case number. Whatever way you are currently accessing your paper scanned files today is a potential option for these files coming from microfilm. We call it traditional because that's kind of how people have been doing it from the very beginning. It still happens that way today, but as we'll get into shortly, there are some definite challenges inherent with the traditional conversion. And as I mentioned there, again, we'll securely deliver those images to you a number of different ways. It could be secure FTP, it could be an encrypted hard drive, but we'll get those to you for import into your document management system. That other option you have is digital reel. And digital reel was developed, really born from the challenges of traditional scanning. And we'll get into those in pretty good detail here in a minute. For the first 10, 15 years of scanning, we really, for lack of a better term, beat our head against the wall trying to deal with these challenges. So let's talk about those now. First of all, if you plan on retiring the film and retiring the reader printers, then you're putting 100% confidence in the vendor that they have captured every image from that microfilm. And we have lots of clients that have thousands of rolls of microfilm, meaning they have tens of millions of images. So every image is just as important as the next. So if there are 10 million images in a conversion, you need to make sure that you captured all of them. You can't have anything missing. If there's anything missing, then you run the risk of perhaps lawsuits, but it also will require you to maintain that film and maintain the reader printers. Another challenge is maximizing image quality. If you can't read the image, it might as well be lost or skipped. So it was very important for us to deal with that challenge because film's not created equal. There's good film out there in the marketplace and there's bad film in the marketplace. And we see everything from one end of the scale to the other. So it's extremely important that the solution be able to deal with good and bad film, and we'll show you that today. The other challenge here is money. I think you'd all agree that microfilm conversion typically isn't at the top of the list in terms of securing funds to be converted. We find that it's generally on the lower end scale. So it's important to keep those costs low, but still maintain and address those other two challenges, making sure that you got every image and making sure that those images are as legible as possible. So we'll talk about capture assurance. Again, the issue is missed or skipped images. And again, I haven't come across one client ever that has said, hey, Brad, it's okay if you miss a certain percentage of the images, not a big problem. Every client expects you to capture and verify that every image was captured and delivered. So it's very important to deal with that upfront and to make the client aware of how we address that. In a typical traditional conversion, if you're going to make sure that all the images are captured, you're going to have to compare each image back to the film itself, one image at a time, making sure that A, it's there, and B, it's legible. Obviously, that involves humans. Humans can make errors, so there's no way of absolutely verifying capture in a traditional conversion. Second, we have those image quality issues. I mentioned before, film is a science and an art. There are a lot of ways to mess up film. It could be the camera, it could be the film batch, it could be the processing, it could be the original material that wasn't any good. So a lot of challenges come into converting this film to images and to make sure they're all there and that they're legible. Issues that we run into on the film itself, sometimes you have a camera error that has affected the focus. You have density variations within the film, maybe low resolution, maybe degradation. The bottom images there to the left show some poor images that might not get framed during a scan, and the lower image on the right shows good quality images next to an image that is very difficult to read. So you have to deal with those basically on a one-by-one basis in a traditional conversion. If I can't read it, then I need to make the adjustments before sending it and delivering it to the content management system. That third challenge was costs. And this is kind of the elephant in the room. The vast majority of your images stored out on film, of any images stored out on film, is that most of them, vast majority, will never require access. I've heard 95% plus, could be 99% plus. But in a traditional conversion, you are treating each one of those images the same. Every image has to be QA'd. Every image document has to be indexed and delivered. So that's a big struggle, cost-wise. And if you're not looking at 95+% of these images, why spend the money to do all of that work with each image? And that, again, is where digital reel is a potential solution to this, because less QA is required. The indexing is minimized, which we'll show you. So overall, it's a lower cost option. Let's talk a little bit about BMI security. I mentioned that federal contract we did a few years back that involved the conversion of 35,000 rolls of film. In order for us to do that project, we went through an arduous process of being certified, getting that NIST SP 800-53 certification. And literally it was about a year and a half. Once we had that in place, and we still have that today, we were able to do that large project for the federal government. We are a cjis compliant vendor. We're also a cjis listed vendor. And your material being as confidential as it is, you'll want to seek out vendors that are not only listed, but also are compliant. We show a picture here of our internal media vault. It's fire rated. It's temperature and humidity controlled. So all of your film, when not being scanned, will be stored in that vault. All right, I'm going to pause my screen just for a quick second. We're going to go into the digital reel demo. So I'll be back with you shortly. All right. Okay, you should see my screen again. I've logged in to Digital Reel. It is a thin client application, meaning you can access this application from anywhere in the world as long as you have an internet connection. It can be accessed from a PC. It's also mobile compatible, so accessible from an iPhone or an iPad. So I'm logged in securely, and I have access to data sets. And this particular one I'm going to show you is it's public information from the state of California having to do with the transport of hazardous waste. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this data set, and what I see next is doc types. And this is where in your application you might see civil and criminal and probate, etc. In this particular application, we have these manifest documents that again track the movement of hazardous waste around, in this case, California. So think of this as me walking up to a microfilm cabinet, and I want to see the manifests, and I'll go ahead and click on this document type, and at this point, we've broken down this sample by years. And in your case, again, you might go to the file cabinets and you have probate and civil and criminal, and then it might be broken down by years again. So this is kind of similar to what you might see in your application. When I click on a given year, in this case 1995, it shows me the roles I have available. In this case, I've got 6 roles. It could just as easily be 600 or 6,000. To open up an individual role, I go ahead and I click on that role, and suddenly my PC becomes my reader printer. I have not physically touched the film, but I've accessed it digitally from my PC, and it displays the first image on that roll. If I click in the background, you'll notice now here is that digitized roll of film. So let's think about this for a second. We have scanned the entire roll, created a digital replica. So we've addressed that first challenge of capture assurance. We have an image of the film label. We have these certifications. Everything on the roll is captured, top to bottom, front to back. So it's very important to address that capture assurance question, because the risk of losing any images is great. So I can scroll through. I'm just simply dragging my mouse. You'll see down here in the bottom left-hand corner a blue scroll bar. And if I happen to click in the middle of that, I've jumped out to the middle of the roll. And clicking at the end takes me to the end of the roll. So that's how quickly now you can move around a given digitized roll of film. Let's look at another way to access these rolls of film. Basically, I came up and I said, let's open up 1995 and let's go ahead and see what's in that drawer and go ahead and open it up. But maybe I have a car system or an external index that says, hey, for that file, you need to go to roll number 5130, which I can type over here to the right, and it's on page 50. So I'll type page 50 in here, and at this point, I'm telling the software, pull up that roll number and take me to page 50 on that roll. Within a matter of seconds, it has done that. You can see here at the bottom with the imprint that happened during filming that we're at 5130 and page 50. So again, there's the search capability of the system. What you're starting to notice, obviously, is that we're emulating how you find things now. If you have an external database and you're looking for a case file and it tells you it's on a roll at a certain frame location, you can get there very easily. Again, clicking in the background, you'll notice that the entire roll comes up and you're able to scroll through these images. All right, so let's assume now that you have found what you're looking for. And if it's a one-page document, you can go ahead and click on it. And then up to the top right, you have a number of things you can do at this point. Primarily, you can download it and save it. We have TIFF, JPEG, PDFs, or actually a download of the text search of the PDF. You can print it as well. If you have multi-page documents, you're able to control click multiple page documents. As I'm clicking these, you're seeing the outline in blue. So I've created a 5-page document now that can be downloaded and exported or printed. All right, so we've addressed the issue of capture. What I want to address now is the issue of image quality. So far, we've seen images that are pretty good. Here earlier in the role, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, we have images that may not be the best quality. Here we have a manifest, and this shaded area, which involves and includes a lot of very important information in this manifest, in the bitonal mode, is not very legible. So a traditional scan, this is probably what you would see unless there was effort and likely money spent to make these images more legible. But in digital reel, as I mentioned before, we scan not only in bitonal, but we scanned in grayscale as well. So this image and any image on any roll can be enhanced. Up here to the top right, there's an enhance button. And what that simply is doing is fetching the grayscale image for us to look at. And you can see already that that information in that shaded area is now much more legible. So on the fly, I was able to access a better quality image, whereas with a traditional conversion, maybe not so. The other thing that we have built in to digital reel is the ability to adjust this image, much like you would on a reader printer. You need a little darker, you need a little lighter, you want to change the contrast, you can do that. So in this case, maybe I'll make this just a hair lighter, and I can change contrast a little bit, and at this point I can save this image out as a PDF, or I can print it and email it to somebody. So that's addressing that image quality issue. This enhanceable grayscale option within digital reel maximizes the legibility of those images. And that's important when you're dealing with potentially millions or tens of millions of images. One thing I want to show you real quickly again, with regard to image capture, I'm going to draw a box very simply across multiple images here, just to show you that any portion of the film can be selected and viewed. And in this case, you're seeing part of one image, the background, and then part of the other image. So the entire roll of film has been captured, making sure that nothing has been missed. All right, I have one more thing I want to show you with regard to searching, and this is really a game changer. I'm going to go back to my doc types, whereas I could open up these file cabinets and virtual file cabinets and select a role, or I could search specifically for a role. But here the game changer is being able to search content of the roles. So we run all the roles, all the images from the roles through an optical character recognition process, and we build a globally searchable database. So I can, from here, go ahead, click up above, and in this case, I'm going to search for Los Angeles. And while I type, it is searching content of those roles. And you'll notice here that it returned 1,000 results. Actually, it was probably more than 1,000 in a couple of seconds. And you'll notice that it gives you some context in and around where it found it. But that's too many results. What I'm really looking for is any manifest having to do with Los Angeles Unified School District. So I'm going to simply add in Unified. And within a matter of 1.5 seconds, it's now reduced that result set to just 7. So very quickly, out of those hundreds of thousands of images in this sample, I have located 7 manifests having to do with Los Angeles Unified School District. So you can imagine the ability to search your content of your film or fiche just as quickly. It does give me, again, context in and around where it found the text, and it gives me a link. So clicking on that link will open up that roll of film and take me directly to that image. It also highlights it for you. So it found Los Angeles Unified and then 2 other occurrences of Los Angeles. So this makes, I mean, again, a huge game changer here. Digital Reel emulates how you find things now physically from film or fiche using a reader printer. Digital Reel does the same thing, but also allows you to potentially search globally any machine text that has been captured. All right, that is essentially the demonstration of Digital Reel. I'm going to pause my screen one more quick time, and I'll be right back to you. All right, so just a quick recap. Some highlights of the Digital Reel solution. Again, we create a digital replica of your film and/or your fiche. It's a pixel-for-pixel digitization in both bitonal mode and grayscale mode, which is extremely important. We index to save costs and also to emulate how you find things. We index at the roll level and at the fiche level, basically from the title strip. And as I mentioned before, this works well with existing CAR systems. And for those of you who aren't sure what a CAR system is, it stands for Computer Automated Retrieval, meaning I have a database that points me to a roll and frame location for anything I'm particularly looking for. We have that OCR processing available. We have that adjustable grayscale, which maximizes image legibility. I mentioned the cloud storage. We also have an on-premise implementation. It's also thin client, but you can store it internally at your location on your intranet and then manage it yourself there. And one thing I do want to really emphasize right here is many of you probably have a content management system right now that is managing information, images scanned from paper. And a traditional conversion of the film could work to be imported into that existing system. As I addressed before, though, sometimes that's cost prohibitive because you have so many rolls of film or fiche and there's so much QA and indexing required. So what I'm going to offer here as a potential solution is a migration on demand potential offered by Digital Reel. And we have a lot of clients that have gone this route. Basically, you convert the film and the fiche to Digital Reel, and when you have a retrieval requirement, you're able to find very quickly that information in Digital Reel. Maybe it's a 200-page document, a 200-page case file. You're able to, at that point, on demand, select those 200 pages, output them as a TIFF or a PDF, and then migrate those into your content management system. So you only make that effort and spend that money internally when you need it. It's not all up front. And again, I point back to 95+% of these images out on film will never be looked at. All right, Q&A. Don't see any questions at this point. I'll give you just a second or two if you want to quickly type something in. If not, we can move on. Again, trying to keep this to 20 or 30 minutes, and we're getting close. All right, nothing at this point. So I'm going to go into next steps. One thing I want to mention is after the webinar today, you're going to receive an email that will have a link to this recording so you can take a look at it again. And for those of you, after seeing this, if you're considering a conversion project, obviously we'd love to talk to you. Reach out to us via email or website, one thing we do offer is free sample scanning. Send us a couple of rolls. Send us 5 or 10 fiche. We'll scan them. We'll process them. We'll put them up in a secure online repository, digital reel, for you to be able to take a look at. From that, we can develop a very detailed proposal. All we need to know is approximate volumes of rolls or fiche that you have, and we can put together a fairly fixed price. You're not going to go into any sort of a project not knowing exactly how much you're going to spend. That's one of the tough things with a traditional conversion also, when you're dealing with images. You don't know how many images you have out there, but what we do know is we know you have a certain number of rolls or close to a certain number of fiche, so we can really pin down costs pretty closely. Okay, again, my contact information, Brad Penfold. There's my phone number and my email address. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to reach out. Again, we'd love to scan a few samples for you. That always makes quite a bit of difference when you can see your own material that has been scanned. If you have challenging film that you deal with on a day-to-day basis, send that in. We want to test that bad film. We want to show you how this adjustable grayscale will resolve the issues you're likely having today using those reader printers. So again, thank you for your time. Very much appreciated. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day and hope to talk to you soon. Take care, everybody.